Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make stock. We start with bones of your choice, whether you're doing beef or chicken. I sometimes save the chicken bones when I debone a chicken and I freeze them, and when I have enough I'll use those for a chicken stock. For beef I usually just pick up the beef bones at the grocery store or your local butcher. So I picked up some shank bones. Another one here is part of a shank and some chunks of meat there that came with that, so I've chopped it up into about even sized pieces as best I can. So for stock we want to roast the bones, but we're going to start with chopping some carrots here in, chunk size 1-inch pieces. I have scrubbed them down. There's no need to cut that one in half again, it's a little large. There's no need to peel these as we're not going to eat them. They're just going to be used to help flavor that stock. So what we want to do is make a bed of vegetables. So I generally use carrots, celery, so we're going to chop again in about 1-inch pieces. We're going to toss that in, mix them all around, and we're going to throw in an onion, which I'm just going to coarsely chop as well. There we go. Throw that in. Just move it around here. You can break the pieces up a little if you like. This is a very simple project. We're going to start by roasting all these bones in the oven, and then when they're roasted to a nice golden with the crispy around the edges of the bones and the bits of meat, we're going to take those out and we're going to do the actual stock in the Instapot. So I'll show you that step when we get there. So basically all I wanted to do is just set these bones on top of all the vegetables. So you can see it down here. Just kind of make a little bed on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands. There we go. And dry them off. Of course, I don't have a towel handy to dry them, but there we go. And we're going to just season this with salt and pepper. We will add more seasonings for stock afterwards, but I will put those in the Instapot to get the most flavor out of them when these bones are all roasted. So put a good amount of pepper in there. I'm going to sprinkle some salt, however much you like. I don't like to do too much. We don't want it over salted. As I've said before, seasoning as you go to flavor things is your best bet. So I'm just going to also drizzle a little bit of olive oil over the top. That'll help things brown up a little bit more. And when we are all done, I will come back. We're going to pop this in the oven at 400 degrees for an hour or so. I'll check at an hour's point, maybe flip the bones around halfway through to get them all crisped up. And when we're done, we'll get to the next step where everything goes in the Instapot, and I'll show you then. Thank you. We'll be right and into a 400 degree preheated oven this goes. So we're going to leave that, like it said, about half an hour, 45 minutes. We'll turn them around, mix the bones up, and roast a little longer till everything is nice and crispy. Okay, so the bones are roasted in the oven. They did take a couple of hours. So what we're going to do now is we want to take all of these bones and put them in our Instapot, including the chunks of meat, because this is all going to give us a really great flavor. So we're going to put all that in, and we're going to top it off with some cold water, and then we're going to put our pressure cooker on. So I'm going to finish putting this in and show you what everything looks like. We're going to fill the Instapot to the PC Max line, which is about 2/3 full. You can't overfill this. This pressure cooking method will extract all of the flavor out of the bones and bits of meat and give us a really rich, delicious stock. So I'm going to put these veggies in as well. Okay, so I just wanted to put my oven mitts on so don't burn myself. You will notice that there is a little bit of fat in the bottom, but we're going to add that in as well. That's completely fine. That's, again, more flavor. So we want to just scrape everything off this pan down. I am going to put a little bit of water in the bottom of this pan and just scrape the bottom as well and add that in and top everything with some fresh water. So I added some water in the pan. We just want to see, we just want to scrape off all these tiny little bits here. What this does is, this is all flavor. We want to add as much of that in as we can. Every little tiny bit is going to give extra flavor to the stock. This is like deglazing a pan, basically. I just add a little bit of water in here. I'm going to take a moment or two, and we're going to scrape that off and add it to our pressure cooker. Okay, and scrape the bottom as best as I can. We're going to add this water in. A little bit of stock, you can see there, hopefully. It does have some nice color, so we got a good amount off the bottom. We're going to do now is add some peppercorns. I don't know, just a little pinch, 4 or 5, maybe 10, probably about 10 I've put in there. You can also do this in a cheesecloth if you like, and put in some thyme, a couple of bay leaves. I'll throw in 3 bay leaves, and you can add a little bit of salt, which I will add, a little pinch of salt here. I don't want to add too much, but just a small pinch. And I don't have any thyme, unfortunately. I had dried some last year and had it in my jar, my spice jar, and I dropped it and it broke, so I have to pick some up. But it's okay if you don't have it, you don't need to add it in. I'm just going to fill this pot up to the PC max line to 2/3 because we want to get as much stock as we can. And I'm hoping with this one that we can get approximately 10 jars again. That's 10 500 milliliter jars, which is the same amount that I got from the chicken stock that I made. So I'm just going to finish adding to that top line. So we are now at the 2/3 max line, just slightly below, but I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to overdo it. I'm going to give everything a quick stir around. Again, in here we have our beef bones, some little chunks of beef off of one of the bones. We also have some bay leaves, some peppercorns, and the onions, celery, and carrots that we use to roast it in. There is some fat from the pan. I'm not concerned about that because when we do strain this later, we're going to let this cool in the fridge and that fat can come off tomorrow morning. Although I do tend to leave a little bit for flavor when I make my stock and pressure cook it, which is hopefully what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. So I put the lid on. You heard that little beep. You're going to turn it. That locks it. We're going to turn, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll lift this up here. There's a little steam button here. This way releases the steam, and pushing it back keeps the steam. So we want to keep it pressurized. We're going to leave that at the back. And I found with the chicken to pressure cook for 1.5 hours was perfect. We got a very flavorful stock. So pressure cook button, and we already had it at 130 from the last time. It tends to hold on to what your last time was when you used your Instapot. So we're just going to do, it's automatically turns on. So this is going to come up to pressure. Once it's come to pressure, the little button on the top is going to pop up to say it's pressurized. We do not want to lift the lid off, and it will cook for 1.5 hours. Once that 1.5 hours is up, it will beep, and we want to let it release on its own. I'm not going to release that top until the pressure gauge is back down, and then we'll open up and see how we did. Okay, so the pressure cooker's all finished cooking our bones for our beef stock. Pressure button is down, pressure gauge I should say. So we're going to remove the lid. Always pull it away from you so you do not end up burning yourself. It's quite hot. So what I want to do basically is just fish out all the bones and the bits of meat and carrots, etc. I'm going to take the biggest parts out with my tongs. I will probably feed some of this to my dog. It's the meat bits that have fallen off, and the carrots are good for him, the onions of course. So we'll just continue to take this out, and then we're going to strain it through the sieve on the pot. So I've taken out as much as I can with the tongs, and I'm going to strain this now through a fine sieve into a pot. So put that going there. So what I want to do is drain this fully to get out any of the bits and pieces, any peppercorns, the bay leaves, or if you did put the thyme in, any of the thyme. And there's a bit of stuff left at the bottom of the pot, but I can get that later. So that's all strained out. We're going to keep this aside to cool. And like I said, I'll pick through the bits of meat for the dog. So we have here a lovely pot of beef stock. So I'm going to put that on the stove just to cool down to room temperature. Once it's to room temperature, we'll put it in the fridge overnight. And then tomorrow, when I have a little bit of time, I will I'll bring it up to a boil. Skim the fat off, bring it up to a boil, and I will pressure cook the stock in some jars. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my page and share with your friends. Thanks and have a wonderful day.